we need to have that name back. I'm sorry.
Just say it's a closed session.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I think, yeah. Meeting of the Person Board of County Commissioners to order at this time and recognize that we do have a quorum. And first order of business, we'll have an invocation led by Commissioner Thomas and a pledge of allegiance led by Commissioner Palmer.
Let's pray. Our Father, we come to you today grateful for the opportunity to come together as a group. We ask you to be with us as we prepare this next coming up year. God, just Lead us as only you can, God. We ask you to be with our first responders, be with all our men and women that are protecting us each and every day. Lord, we want to ask you to be with our troops overseas that are watching us and protecting us. Lord, we ask you just to watch over us, lead us, guide us, and save us. In your heavenly name I do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Those who wish to do the pledge, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First on the agenda is discussion, adjustment, and approval of the agenda as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. At this point, in all of our commissioner meetings, we do have informal comment periods set aside for public comment. And we do have these 10-minute segments to hear from the public and their concerns. And so we have 7 signed up to speak, and we'll ask that our IT timekeeper will keep time for those speakers at 2 minutes each. Madam Clerk, who is our first speaker?
All right, our first speaker is Mary Bennett.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I live and have lived near 2 beautiful streams in Rougemont for 34 years. I've walked to those streams every day, almost every day. When Dominion came to our community and talked to us, I showed them the map that showed these streams. One of them comes, the headwaters from Dominion site. The other comes from the east. And I explained that Dominion was in the headwaters of that one stream and that I was very concerned about that. And they assured us that they would have erosion control measures in place to prevent downstream problems. We also grilled them, honestly, on how much water they were going to be using. And they said it's going to be the tank. The tank will be filled. It doesn't get filled more than, once. It stays. If there's an emergency, it's used. And, we use water in the bathrooms, but this facility doesn't use a lot of water. They failed to mention that they were going to use 16 million gallons of water to clean those tanks and to, they're going to use water to clean when they pour the slab, the cement trucks, and all of that water is going to be on the site and released from the site. And we have in writing how much they're going to use, and we have in writing now from them that they're going to use their stormwater systems to release that water. So since they've begun construction, the stream coming from that area has been contaminated. It is completely silt-filled. It is terrible. It is terrible. And, this is only going to get worse. And once they start to do construction and they have this concrete is terrible in terms of killing everything in its path. If this concrete dust goes down these streams, this is going to be detrimental to the streams and all of the all the critters in the streams and my grandchildren playing in these streams. Okay, and I knew they were bad. I knew these streams were a completely wrong color for weeks now. But I went out the other day and noticed something and took some pictures I'd like to share with you. Because, as I said, one of these streams comes from the east. And these streams have always been clear and beautiful. We could see the fish, we could see the animals. At one point, these 2 streams on this piece of property converge. Okay, so I want to show you, and I'll leave these with you. This is the stream that's coming from the east. It's completely clear and beautiful, completely clear and beautiful as it always has been. This is the stream coming from the north, from Mariah Energy Center. On the same day, there's no rain, there's nothing. Beautiful, clean, clear stream from the Mariah Energy Center. I'm going to show you one more. As you start to look downstream, it stays separated. This is the stream, clear, you can see the reflection. This is the stream from the other direction. They come together, eventually downstream, they all become mud. They all become gross. And, these streams are also protected by the Tar River Land Conservancy. We put in an over 100-acre conservation easement for these streams to protect them. And they came out and inspected the other day, and they were telling the person who was with them, a bit of sediment is not a big problem. Sometimes erosion control measures don't work 100%. They got there and they said, oh my God, this is a lot of sediment. This is a big stream. And it's downstream about a mile or so more from this plant, and it's still full of sediment. Like, the amount of sediment coming from this plant is unacceptable. And I know that they are probably following whatever erosion control measures are required. It's not enough. And I don't know what you can do, but it is not enough to protect these streams, and it is absolutely not enough to protect them once we start using concrete and other materials, and it's coming downstream. It's a problem, and I really, really hope you can do something about this. It's a very serious problem. Thank you.
Thank you. We, IT, and I get this.
They're working on it. Next speaker we have is John Seat. Mr. Seat, before you begin, we're gonna see if IT can get our technical difficulties handled, okay?
Okay, I brought my short version. So, we're trying to get the timer going?
Yes.
So you're gonna stop me from starting?
No, I'm
Okay.
getting ready to let
Very
you go
good.
as soon as I,
It
as
didn't
soon
make,
as I get ready.
didn't make any more sense out loud than it did in my head. So a few meetings ago, Chairman Powell expressed his frustration and sorrow for not speaking up for decades about county matters which should have been addressed long ago. We watched as you all rolled your eyes at him and not publicly acknowledged the good stipulations that he put forward courageously. Last meeting, Alan Booker, a 77-year-old from Rougemont, asked himself in front of you all why he had thanked you at a prior meeting that he had spoken at. He asked whether or not it was for failing to listen to Person County residents, for not responding to their requests for information, for not being able to address you as individuals in an open meeting, and for a number of other reasons. This occurred just after we witnessed you blatantly ignore 3 residents who came before you to petition for some modifications which had safety and quality of life impacts on their families. It left me wondering why you were all here. They asked for a small berm and a better hedge, which you failed to even discuss. They asked, instead of regarding their words, you voted for a motion as written in your agenda package in your hurry through an agenda. The lack of concern for these families was astounding. What kind of civic lesson did you provide the 2 girls attending with their mother, who also happened to be a Girl Scout leader, no less? What do you think they and others watching took away from your actions? People take time out of their lives to come here just to be ignored or worse. What kind of hope do you think you give the community by such behavior? I cannot believe this is how your parents, your teachers, your civic leaders instructed you to behave. What happened to each of you? Where is your love and respect for the county's residents? What directs your actions? Is it just to be the pawn of the powerful and influential? To enjoy some side benefit through some LLC you or a family member owns and operates? How about a fellow board member or prior board member that you hang with? So again, I ask you, why are you here? Like Alan so eloquently said last meeting, your behavior clearly demonstrates democracy at its worst. Larry Yarborough, our recent representative in Raleigh, made this statement in writing, that your ruling indicated that you all wanted this business entity to succeed and will not hinder this business entity with silly regulations. Astounding. To which I'll add, not even hindered by neighbors' safety concerns. The very regulations that you all write, that he wrote, he spat on, he made a mockery of, calling them silly regulations, the same regulations each and every one of the citizens are expected to follow. So let me ask you again, why are you here? Many here and home watching within our community would like to know. Why are you even here? Are you counting on the community's apathy when you reassess their homes in January? Increasing their property taxes? Or how about when you increase the taxes to a population that's over 18% under poverty level? Or how about when you're out there and you're begging for votes, Mr. Sims, from the very voters that you have ignored and
Excuse me,
trampled on?
don't make this personal.
When will you start putting the
Chairman?
county and its citizens before self. You have drifted away from any public service foundation and abandoned any instruction as a
Mr.
child.
Seep, please address the entire board, sir.
Oh, absolutely. If you don't like the tone and the spirit of the community, let me remind you, each of you have largely established it, and you are reaping that which you have sown. Lastly, again, why are you here? We would really like to know. Thank you for your time, and by the way, that's a constitutional right. So I apologize that Mr. Sims doesn't like that he got called out.
Have a good day.
Just wanted to note the timer is working now. It's a little quieter when it goes off, but the time is on the screen.
Okay.
All right, the next speaker we have is Jose Terrablanca.
Good afternoon. This is obviously my first time ever being in front of anybody. I'm here today to speak to y'all on the matter of DSS and the CPS side of it. As of right now, me and my wife are being currently, we would call it attacked, due to the fact of which our two very young daughters were removed wrongfully from our care due to improper reports, false allegations, and also amongst of other things that certain people wouldn't really want out and about. That would be such as, for me personally, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe in the Bible. My psych evaluation that they are determining my parenting skills bases that my belief in God are nothing but delusions and hallucinations. I have a very troubled past, and some people in this town know it, some people don't. I've lived here for almost 25 years. I've been here since I was 5. I love this county. I love this place. I've even tried moving out, still came back. Why? Because this is my home. And I didn't come back home and expect to grow a family here and still live in fear that if I piss off the wrong organization that my children are going to be removed from me. I didn't perceive that growing up. But now that I'm facing it now, I don't know what to do. My wife, our caseworker, she has known her for over 11 years, and the department is doing nothing. We have reached out to every single branch, every single part of leadership. Nothing. Nothing has been done. They're hurting this family and trying to say that we've damaged them. But we have clear evidence that there's obviously otherwise. So we're just hoping that y'all can help in some type of way. Our family's being unjustly done by this. We're believers in Christ, and we're being persecuted because if we're not, being told that we're mentally unstable because of our beliefs in Christ. And this is why they have our children removed from us. No grounds. Everything is sketchy at most. The judgments of these people are very, very biased, very opposition against the truth and the way it writes. These people have stood against. They have this entire community. I can tell you from folks that I've grown around. My younger generation are terrified of this department because they live in fear that no matter what they do, they're going to be there's somehow or another, they're going to get their children, their family ripped apart. Their benefits denied for something. That department has become its own separate entity, and it acts just as such. Each one doesn't gather the appropriate justice that it needs. There are
Thank you,
families
sir.
out here.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Next speaker we have is Liz Bratcher.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. We are playing a shell game with Project Log. The public questions are covered up by the use of the game done by the county and the Person County BIC. Both entities are covering up for individuals and the mistakes that have been made. Jay Poindexter, Donna Long, Philip Allen, and others have played this game in front of all of us. The land has garbage piles on it still to this day. Jay Poindexter was stated when he spoke to Joe DiBiase that he can't trespass on this land. Mr. Poindexter is a member of the Person County BIC Board, and that land is still owned by the Person County BIC. Miss Wilborn, a candidate for commissioner and sister-in-law to our sheriff, refuses to speak about this under the guise of economic development confidentiality. We all know there's no competing bids on this project, there's nothing secret on this project, and yet the word confidentiality is used over and over, when really it means public obstruction. Shell games are easy to see. Pages 53 and 54 in this document shows shell games by the Biden administration. I know what a shell game is. The shell game being played here is documented too with emails and information obtained from the Department of Environmental Quality, Norfolk Southern Rail, the Timmons Group, the State Department of Transportation, English Construction, and the list goes on from there. I have all the emails. It is all too convenient that our Courier Times, the only paper in Person County, refuses to write anything about this matter. Is it because the editor is covering up for his friends? Being raised and coming from the DC area, I can see a cover-up a mile away, and this is one. There is no mistake, this is a political cover-up. And 3 of you owe your seats on this board to the Miss Wilburn's brother-in-law, and the dots are easy to connect. Project Log is imploding, and the main people involved are hiding information from the public. In closing, I have one final question. What is your intention to give taxpayer money to a nonprofit that has raised not a dime on their own for well over 20 years and has caused this blunder? Not a dime of public money should go to this entity. Mr. Allen should be removed from the EDC, and the entire EDC's purpose and their work should be evaluated. And one more thing. Virtue and honesty is expected from our leaders. I didn't say that. Benjamin Franklin did.
Thank you.
Next speaker, Andrea Childers.
Good morning.
Morning.
I brought visual aids for you guys today because there's a lot to be seen.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Andrea Childers. I live in Rougemont. Sediment is the greatest water pollutant by volume in North Carolina. Sediment can quickly fill rivers, lakes, and reservoirs, destroying aquatic habitats, fish populations, and result in damage to drinking utilities. Person County lies in the Neuse River Basin, home to threatened and endangered species, more specifically Deep Creek, which is less than 2 miles from the Mariah Energy Center. Home to federally threatened Atlantic pigtoe mussel, Neuse River water dog, the green floater mussel. Deep Creek is also home to the federally endangered Carolina mud tom catfish. These are only a few threatened and endangered species living in Deep Creek. As of today, Dominion Energy has already violated erosion standards set by the state of North Carolina, as well as violating the Clean Water Act. Turbidity standards are not to be allowed to exceed 50 NTUs, and over the past few weeks, Mr. Clayton's Creek has reached as high as 750 NTUs. Our creek has reached as high as 220 NTUs. If you look at the picture, you can actually see the pre-construction has only taken place. No construction has actually been done. Photograph 1 is an aerial photo of the rape that has been occurred on the 70 acres of land by Dominion Energy. Circled are the retaining ponds. The rest of these photos were taken 6 days after a current storm. Plenty of time to settle down. Photograph 2 is an image of our creek on March 2nd. Photograph 3 is an image of our creek on May 9th after they opened the sediment retaining ponds. 31 years we've lived here. At the top, you can see a clean stream rippling down into the brown flow that came from Mariah Energy on my creek. Our creek flows into Rock Fork Branch, which flows into Deep Creek. Sorry, guys, this is really important stuff. Photograph 4 is Chris Clayton's Creek. He lives directly across from the Mariah Energy Center. Never in his life has he seen this creek look like that. Photograph 5 is Mr. Clayton's Creek, which flows into Clear Creek on Potluck Farm community that Mary showed you. You can actually see the line between clear and muddy. Photograph 6 is an image of samples taken Friday, May 17th. One was taken in the morning. 4 hours later, they went back, and that is the second one, which is shocking. If that doesn't score in 1,000 of NTUs, I will be surprised. I could show you hundreds of similar pictures. If Dominion Energy cannot control their sediment runoff during pre-construction, how in the world do you believe we can trust them during the times where they're using explosives or when they're burning toxic chemicals from their flares? I implore you, commissioners, it is not too late for you guys to stop this tragedy. Please.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Next speaker, Elissa Huffstetler.
Hi, I'll be real brief because I was one of the originators of NOMEC. I'm Elisa Huffstetler. I live in Rougemont, and I am not paid by anybody to be here, ever. In fact, the only people that are paid are you guys, and you're paid by my money. So I just want a minute of your time. I've been really pondering Memorial Day. My dad was a fighter pilot, one of the most dangerous things you can do in World War II and in the Korean War. He fought for democracy. All of my aunts and uncles served. And that was 8 people in one family and 9 in another. My dad and I fought a lot about politics. We were not on the same side. But he always respected the fact that I had an opinion, and I had the opinion because he had fought for our liberty and our democracy. We wouldn't be in this whole thing with the LNG and all the other meetings we've had and things if you all had respected our democracy, your constituents that pay your salary, that pay taxes for this county, that love where we live. You listen to Andrea every week. You know she loves it. Mary, all these people, and you have disregarded completely. I'm not sure how it got so turned around in Person County. My sister was a commissioner in Huntersville, North Carolina, many years ago, and the county decided they had to have everybody tap onto their sewer and water. We had people in our county that we'd known all our lives. We grew up there. She went out and found money, raised money, not for a campaign, but to pay for those people to get tap-on fees. That's the kind of government I want. That's the kind of government here we need. You all could have sat down. We asked you to come to dinner, coffee, whatever. Nobody. You treated us as the enemy. We are not the enemy. At the chamber breakfast, Mr. Powell told me, we don't have to listen to constituents. We listen to experts. Well, let me tell you, we've become experts in all of this. We've been trained with Sound River, with Sierra Club. We've been trained. We've done our homework. You all do your homework. It is not, just like Andrea said, it is not too late. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker we have is Rhonda Courier.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Rhonda Courier. I live in Timberlake. I'm here in opposition of Mariah Energy Center. We continue to share valuable information about the negative impacts this liquefied natural gas facility will have on our residents and the environment, but we're not feeling heard. There should be no sacrificial lambs as a result of this project. Everyone who lives and breathes in this community should be heard and be considered important. This was not a minor decision you made to rezone and allow this LNG monstrosity into our community, but yet you made it without regard to the facts that have been and continue to be presented to you. You apparently listened to a company who would tell you anything to get their claws into our affordable land, touting its proposed benefits to our community rather than listening to the facts. You have forced upon people a facility that will negatively impact the health and well-being of our residents and our planet. It's not too late to do the right thing and reverse your decision. Religious or not, God is watching. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our informal comment period.
All right, thank you. Item number 1 on the, excuse me, the agenda is discussion and adjustment or approval of the consent agenda as presented. Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Have a motion for approval of the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried. New business, item number 2 is a resolution authorizing county line surveying. Sally Bond. Good morning.
Good morning,
County line
Commissioners.
surveying.
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me this morning. Can I get my slides to come up on the screens, please? There we go. Next slide, please. So I wanted to include a copy of the North Carolina General Statute that outlines how surveying, how the county boundary lines came to be where they are, and how sometimes they do require some adjustment. On the right-hand side here, you will see, I've sort of outlined what this says without having to read it verbatim. In order to have a county boundary line reassessed, adjacent counties must cooperatively request a boundary survey. In this case, Caswell has also requested that this boundary be surveyed. The counties may choose to appoint a special commissioner on boundaries to supervise the process. This person is typically the tax assessor. The resulting survey and final report will be provided to counties for approval or becomes conclusive 1 year after filing at the local Register of Deeds office. Any affected parties will be notified in writing of the county boundary change, and the North Carolina Geodetic Survey is willing to provide staff or attend meetings as needed. Next slide, please. This is kind of small, but attached on the left is the 1998 letter from Caswell County requesting that this boundary be surveyed, and the equivalent letter from Person County in 2001 on the right-hand side. Next slide, please. This is the resulting survey from 2003. This is the first page of that survey. The survey was generated, but it was never adopted by either local government. So this is just a preliminary, non-legal, non-binding copy. I also have a digital copy of this that I'm able to compare to the existing county boundary lines. And we will get to those maps in just a moment. Next slide, please. This is the second page of the survey that was produced in 2003. At the time, 3 county line markers were placed in the ground. One at the Caswell, Person, and Virginia corner, where the 3 come together. One on Leesburg Road, and one at the Caswell, Person, and Orange County corner. The North Carolina Geodetic Survey will resurvey those markers using current technology to produce a new plat of the survey of the boundaries. Next slide, please. So I said I had a copy of this 2003 boundary. So that's what is depicted here on this screen to sort of provide you an example of what might be changing. The final survey that is submitted may differ from this a little bit, but likely not very much. The change is very slight and mostly impacts uninhabited areas of the county that are farmland, forest, or that type of thing. The new survey will likely shift the boundary west, ranging from less than a foot to several feet as pictured here off of Sunny Lane. And in one area, it will move the county boundary up to 70 feet. This is going to help us resolve some long-standing issues with 911 dispatching and taxation. Years ago, the Person and Caswell counties addressed these areas along this boundary and then taxed them differently, and we are looking to resolve that. The next slide, please. So this is an example of the area where the difference between the current boundary and the potential new boundary are the farthest apart. As you can see, it's about 70 feet off of Samora Road and Skylark Drive. We're talking just a real sliver here. The next slide, please. So today I'm asking for the board to approve a resolution authorizing county line surveying. This will authorize the North Carolina Geodetic Survey to complete any necessary research and perform the survey work. This will also appoint Russell Jones as the Special Commissioner on Boundaries. The North Carolina Geodetic Survey will create and submit a plat of survey for ratification by the board, or the survey will become conclusive after ratification or within 1 year of submission. The next slide, please. I am here for questions, and my recommended action is to approve the resolution authorizing the county line surveying between Person and Caswell.
Board member questions?
Ms. Vaughn, did you say Caswell requested this, or who requested the?
We were actually, both Caswell and Person were contacted by the North Carolina Geodetic Survey asking us to proactively resolve this issue.
Okay. Is there any cost to our county to do this?
The only cost might be if we choose to have a public hearing, which is not required, would be cost for advertising for the public hearing.
Ms. Vaughn, I'm a little confused on where Alamance County ties in at.
So this is between Person County and Caswell County.
But you
I don't
mentioned-
think Alamance is
You
involved.
mentioned Alamance somewhere in here?
I think it might be on one of the documents that I provided in the PowerPoint, but that's not related at all. We don't border Alamance County.
That's what I
Caswell
need.
does.
That's what I need.
Yeah, Caswell.
I just wanted
yeah.
to clarify.
So when Caswell requested their county, they wanted their entire county resurveyed in the late
and
'90s.
they do,
So
touch.
they had an Alamance connection.
Gotcha.
We do not.
That's where it
Correct.
would've come in.
Correct.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing county line survey?
So moved. Make the motion.
We have a motion for approval. Any further discussions, questions? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion and request, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Item number 3 on the agenda is Airport Rehabilitation Project Contract. County Manager Kathy recognized additional grant funds in the amount of $4.1 million. So, Madam Manager?
Yeah, so in Ray's absence, I am presenting this item to you this morning. We do have a project that we have planned for airport rehabilitation, and this is for resurfacing of the runway as well as connecting taxiways and apron pavements at the Raleigh Regional at Person County Airport. NCDOT originally awarded grant funding for this project, which has been budgeted, but they have recently awarded additional funds, which will cover the entire project as far as the NCDOT's 90% match for the project. So what we are asking is for the board to authorize the receipt of this additional $4.1 million to fund the project. The county does have matching funds, the 10% budgeted in the airport construction fund. So we will do a budget amendment to process the receipt of this additional funding. The project was bid. The Fred Smith Company of Raleigh provided a bid in the amount of $10,042,059. That will actually be the cost of the project, which is under what was approved by NCDOT and funded. And we do have a draft contract, but that is not yet finalized with the Fred Smith Company. They will need to do some bonding and signatures before that comes to us for final execution. But what we are asking this morning is that the board recognize the additional grant funds in the amount of $4,100,000 so we can set that budget up within Munis and award the contract to Fred Smith Company and authorize the county manager to execute the contract.
Okay, so with that change, the county's contribution, that 10%, is that number remain the same? How does that work?
So the county will contribute 10% of the entire project. So
As
of the
bid.
10,042,000,
Right.
right, so that'll be about $100,000 towards the project. And we do have that funding available. We just need to create the budget for the project.
Thank you, and it's very good news.
It is.
We've got that. It's quite an improvement that's much needed. Comments, questions, board members? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Let's to approve this rehabilitation project for the Person County Raleigh Regional Airport runway.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for approval. Any other discussion or comments?
And just to clarify, is the motion to recognize the additional grant funds in the amount of $4,100,000, award the contract to Fred Smith Company, and authorize the county manager to execute the contract?
Is that what you said, Commissioner?
That's
Bond?
exactly what I
Okay,
said.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, for clarity, all in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carried. Thank you. Good news.
Sure.
Item number 4 on the agenda is manager's recommended budget presentation. And Manager Kathy.
I'm gonna grab the clicker to see if I can advance the slides. Let's see if this is working. It is. Okay, good morning again. I am pleased this morning to present the fiscal year 25 manager's recommended budget. The budget has come together after months of hard work by county departments. Also, county staff working with our partners such as Person County Schools and Piedmont Community College to put this budget together. I'd especially like to thank our finance staff, Chief Financial Officer Amy Warenberg and Deputy Chief Financial Officer Tracy Clayton, who are both here this morning. We're all available to answer any questions that you may have as we go through or following the presentation. So I would like to thank everyone who's been involved. I would like to highlight some of the accomplishments that you as a Board of Commissioners have had over the previous year. When it comes to our workforce, these were some of our top priorities for our fiscal year 24 budget. Implementing the results of the classification and pay study, we added full-time employees to 9 departments, transitioned animal control to the sheriff's office. With capital needs, the county issued $12.2 million in debt to fund ADA and security at Person County Schools, well, at Person High School to be specific, and approved an additional $3 million for the Person High School stadium improvements. Approved the purchase and funding for a new facility for Piedmont Community College, where they are going to expand their campus and develop their Center for Healthcare Advanced Technology and Trades, which they're referring to as CHAT. We did work with a lobbyist and media strategist to ensure that Person County's voice is heard as it relates to the carbon plan and Duke Energy's commitment to remaining in Person County in developing the combined cycle natural gas and hydrogen capable plants. Duke Energy did announce their plans to construct these 2 plants and are going through the approval process at the state level. As far as economic development goes, negotiated renewal of the option for the purchase for the mega park. substantially completed clearing and grading of the North Park site. You had the announcement from Dominion Energy to construct a $400 million facility. And we worked hard to reduce the time that it takes to issue on-site wastewater permits. So that is now down to 4 to 5 weeks. And that has been a priority of the board. Some big ticket items for the upcoming budget. These were some of our big budget drivers. So again, with the county workforce, we did have 14 new positions requested by departments. Very few of those will be funded in the upcoming budget. I'll go through the specifics of that. But we are seeing a need to focus on our current workforce, make sure that we put measures in to sustain the pay plan that was implemented during this current fiscal year so that we can focus our efforts on being able to recruit and retain the best talent to meet the needs of the county. When it comes to vehicles, we are moving forward with implementing the Enterprise Fleet Management Program. We are funding 3 new PATS buses, and that is another situation where those are covered at 90% with state and federal dollars, and the county contributes 10% of the cost. And then we have a continuing need to replace high-dollar ambulances. There were 2 that were requested in next year's budget. Neither one of those are included for funding, but we have found a way to move forward with purchasing 1 additional ambulance with available funds in this current fiscal year. And we will be able to go ahead and get that ordered because there is a long lead time, sometimes up to 18 months or more before those new vehicles can arrive. But we are in a situation right now where we are routinely needing to borrow an ambulance from Caswell County or another neighbor. And we do hope to receive the 2 new ones that are currently on order in the next several months. Education funding also was faced with large increases in the current or upcoming fiscal year for fiscal year 25. Person County Schools submitted a current funding request that is 10% higher or just over $1 million more than they are currently being funded. And this has a lot to do with the loss of some of the pandemic funding that they have benefited from over the last several years. But they have taken many measures to cut costs, including combining North Elementary with North End in order to trim some of the needs from their budget for the upcoming year. It is still a large increase. And then Piedmont Community College has also requested additional funding for current expenses. Some of that is related to the expansion of their campus into the chat building and additional operating expenses that are associated with that. When it comes to technology, we have increased expenses just related to maintenance and service contracts, increased equipment expenses. Cybersecurity is a large part of our budget as we want to make sure that we are prepared for the inevitable attacks that come at us. We definitely learned a lesson several years ago and want to make sure that we are as secure as we possibly can be. So there are always evolving technology needs as we look for ways to utilize technology to better serve our residents. And then as far as facilities, we have the addition of chat. We are moving forward with the purchase of the Human Services Building. That will be debt financed. We will have some additional operating costs there as we assume some of the things that were previously covered in the lease, such as custodial services and maintenance within that building. And then, as you know, we are currently underway with the expansion of the recycling center to accommodate Person Industries who will move out of the building they are currently leasing, which will end in the next calendar year. So, some strategies for fiscal year 25-27 as adopted in the strategic plan. The 5 focus areas are economic opportunity and growth, lifelong learning, service excellence, capital investment, and quality of life. I'm just going to briefly give you some examples of how the recommended fiscal year 25 budget aligns with the strategic plan. We asked our department heads in making their requests and establishing their budget objectives for next year to tie those back to these focus areas that were within the strategic plan, so we can see how the dollars that we will be spending are related back to the strategies that the board has adopted. So the first one there, for the economic opportunity, we still have $2 million set aside in ARP funding for economic development as we look to identify additional strategies there, and then $2.8 million for broadband expansion. Our Economic Catalyst Fund is funded at $1.5 million in next year's budget. And then, as we just discussed, the airport rehabilitation project is set to begin in August. Lifelong learning, $28.7 million. I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. The first one is facilities, or capital investment. So $28.7 million in the fiscal year 25 CIP includes $21 million in debt issuance to fund the purchase of buildings for human services and Piedmont Community College, replace a large roof at South Elementary, and complete the Person Industries and Recycling Center merger. We also have 2 great grant projects and the CAB project underway to add fiber infrastructure within the county. When it comes to lifelong learning, the budget does recommend fully funding Person County Schools' request for their current expenses, which is a 10.2% increase, and provides a 20% increase to Piedmont Community College. It does not fully fund their request, but does provide for a large increase. So that's a total of $13.2 million to Person County Schools and $1.7 million of the budget to Piedmont Community College. Employee pay is included, so this relates to the focus area of service excellence. So as far as employee pay, we have implemented, or we have introduced a COLA, a cost of living adjustment, into the upcoming budget. That is something that the county has not done for many years. It was recommended by our classification and pay consultant when they completed our recent study. So what that does is it's recommended at 3.5%, and that adjusts all of our pay ranges up so that our pay ranges will be more competitive with the market when we're trying to recruit new employees. And it also provides that 3.5% salary adjustment to our current employees to help their salaries keep up with the cost of living or inflation that has been experienced over the past year. The budget also includes funding merit pay on a continuing basis, and as well as some benefits enhancements that I'll go over shortly. It definitely supports professional development, so that's travel, training, tuition reimbursement, certification pay for our employees, and also a citizen engagement line item. So one of the programs that we plan to implement in the fall is a Citizens Academy. Within the next category, which is quality of life, one of the programs that we're introducing is a lease program for patient movement devices, biomedical equipment, and AEDs that are used by EMS and fire personnel. This is a way to replace many of the items that are currently at the end of their life, and it incorporates ongoing maintenance as well as full replacement of those after 5 years. And then implement the Port or Post Overdose Response Team program within emergency services and an early intervention program within Person County Schools. Both of those programs are to be funded with the opioid settlement funding. So again, these are just some of the select examples that I pulled out that show where the upcoming budget aligns with the strategic plan. So next we have our fiscal year 25, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. Just a quick overview of what the fiscal year 25 budget is. The general fund budget is $80.5 million. This is an increase of $6.8 million or 9.2% over the current year. And the whole budget, which incorporates both the general fund as well as other funds, is $101.6 million. That's an increase of $8 million or 8.6% over fiscal year 25 for the complete budget. Next, we have general fund revenues. This shows you a breakdown of our revenue sources. So just over 50% of the general fund revenues do come from property taxes. We also receive funding from sales taxes, which is substantial. That's at 17%. Intergovernmental revenues at 11%. Charges for service at close to 7%. And then we do have other revenue sources to supplement those more major ones. We do have slight growth in the tax base of about 3%. So that means our total valuation of both property and DMV has increased by $163 million over the past year. And that's related to new development. It's related to the valuation of personal and business property. As you know, we are in the midst of conducting a revaluation. So increased property values will not be captured until the next fiscal year. This growth only captures those that are reappraised on an annual basis, such as the public utilities and the other items that I mentioned. So we have had much less growth in interest. Well, we've had less growth in interest earnings and sales taxes as compared to fiscal year 24. Much less in sales taxes and less in interest earnings. So property taxes do include, which I'll go over in a little more detail on the next slide, a 3-cent tax increase. With that 3-cent tax increase, we have the ability to generate $2.6 million more in property taxes, which is a 7.3% increase over the current fiscal year. DMV taxes are up by $3.4 million, or will be $3.4 million. That's an increase of $178,000 or 5.5% over the current year. Sales taxes, as I said, grew minimally. We're only expecting about $86,000 additional from sales taxes next year. That's less than 1%. And then interest earnings have grown by $601,000, which is a 50% increase, but still much less than we saw in the current year. So as far as property tax revenues, the current tax rate is 72.25 cents. The recommended budget does include a 3-cent tax increase to make the tax rate 75.25 cents. We're estimated to generate $38.1 million from this, and the collection rate in the budget remains at 97.5%. So 1 penny on the tax rate generates $552,650. So that additional 3 cents is approximately $1.5 million in additional revenue that we would be generating through property taxes for next year's budget. Sales tax revenues, this does show that minimal increase that I mentioned. The rate is 6.75 cents. County receives 2 cents of sales taxes, and the projected growth is just over 0.5% for a total of $13.7 million in sales tax revenues. Fund balance. As you know, required for all local governments. Fund balance provides for cash flow as property taxes are not paid exactly on July 1st. So we need to have that money in the bank to pay our bills. It's our savings account, and it's a way to pay our bills as of July 1st before property taxes start to come in. It provides for unanticipated expenses and loss of revenues. It's an indicator of the health of our finances. It can influence the bond rating on which interest rates are based. So best practices for using fund balance is to limit spending to one-time, non-recurring needs. And we do have a financial policy that the board adopted that says at the end of the fiscal year, once our audit has concluded, anything above 25% will be transferred to the capital investment fund. So we want to keep that fund balance at 25%, and the excess goes towards capital needs in the future. Fund balance as a percentage of total expenditures. This is the best guess at this point in time. But the estimate is that we will finish out the fiscal year at about 30% of fund balance. That is still an unknown. It is a definite estimate, but we wanted to give you an idea of where things stand right now. So if that ends up being correct, then we'd have about the additional 5% to transfer into the capital investment fund in the fall. Fund balance appropriations in fiscal year 25. The recommended budget includes $2.3 million in fund balance appropriations to sustain our operating funds. Within the general fund, that's $1.21 million for vehicle capital. $25,000 comes from the Community Development Project Funds for the biannual Household Hazardous Waste Day. Library Fund and Reappraisal Reserve Fund will both use some of the reserves that have been generated in prior years. Small amount from the Register of Deeds Technology Fund to go towards the purchase of 3 shelving units. And for DSS, they have a substantial fund balance right now, and $962,000 is included. And this is mainly as a placeholder to pay, again, the bills as of July 1st before state and federal funds come in for the new fiscal year. So those allocations make up the total of a $2.3 million fund balance appropriation. General fund expenditures, 25% of our budget make up public safety. The public safety function includes sheriff's office, everything within our emergency services department. You've got animal control, fire marshal, 911, and then those are within those 2 departments that I just mentioned. Animal services is also within this function. Human services makes up 21.4% of the budget, and education 18.7%. Some budget highlights. Operating costs have definitely been impacted by inflation. We are seeing higher costs for supplies and equipment that we need to purchase, higher costs for service and maintenance contracts, just higher costs all the way around. Inclusion of the COLA that I mentioned earlier to support the pay plan implemented in fiscal year 24. The need for new equipment and vehicles, and the addition of the 2 new buildings and the operating costs associated with them. These budgets are outside of our traditional county departments, but I just wanted you to see what we are receiving from these other entities in terms of request for increased operating budgets. So within the courts, we're adding $2,000 to their budget. That's a 29% increase over the current fiscal year, and they have funding needs related to implementation of the Enterprise Justice Project, which is the paperless system that the state has moved towards for the court system. Within the medical examiner budget, we have an 85% increase. We added $23,000 to that budget because the Department of Health and Human Services autopsy fees increased by more than 100%, and we do have to pay those for any autopsies that are conducted. Forestry requested an increase of $9,000 or 9%, which is due to higher personnel expenses and the purchase of new vehicles. And then, as you know, we do pay expenses at the old landfill for gas monitoring, scale calibration, water testing, and those types of activities. That budget is going up by $6,000 or 12%. I mentioned we had 14 new position requests. The budget only includes funding for 3 new positions. 2 of those are mobile integrated healthcare paramedics that are fully funded through the opioid settlement dollars. And you did approve the implementation of that program about a month ago during a board meeting by adopting a resolution. And then the one position that does have an impact on the general fund is the addition of a full-time custodial technician at the Human Services building. So as we assume those responsibilities from the lease that we were previously paying, we do anticipate that we'll be able to provide a higher level of service within that building, be more responsive to needs, and be able to offer that with this full-time position supplemented by a couple of part-time positions in that building. Vehicles, the budget does include funding for 28 new fleet vehicles plus 3 PATS buses. So the departments that those vehicles would be assigned to, and again, these are replacement vehicles, are detailed on the chart on this slide. The criteria was established in conjunction with Enterprise through the new fleet management program, and it's based on age, mechanical issues, and mileage. The total cost for the 28 replacement vehicles and the 3 PATS buses is $1.2 million. So this is $554,000 more than we allocated to fleet in the current budget, and it is in an effort to have a more robust fleet management program where we have a newer fleet which would be better in terms of safety and efficiency. It would have a positive impact on employee morale. When we go to sell the vehicles, we can expect a higher resale value and return on investment for the county. Next, we have the county workforce. So the COLA is included in the budget. The total cost of implementing the COLA, which is salary and the associated benefits, that's the retirement, local government retirement contribution that's tied to salary, the 401k contribution, and income taxes, is $1.1 million for the 3.5% COLA. And that is based on an average of 3 separate indexes that are published at the federal level. So the cost of living, or the cost of living index over the previous 12 months has increased by 3.5%. The Social Security index, the last time we were able to measure that, had increased by 3.9%, and then, or no, that was 3.2%, I think. And then the other economic indicator index that we looked at, which reflects wage growth for state and local government employees, at the end of April was at 5%. So when we averaged those 3 numbers, it actually came out to 3.9%, which is higher than when we previously averaged it and included the 3.5% in the budget. So that is how we calculated that amount, and that was an index that was suggested by the consultants. Continuing merit pay in the budget, which is a 2 to 3% salary increase for employees who meet or exceed performance standards, has a total cost of $427,000. That's for increased salary and the associated benefits. Continuing the longevity pay program, which provides for a bonus in effect that's paid out based on years of service in November, is a cost of $472,000 for those payments that are made on an annual basis. For health insurance, the cost is $14,087 per year per employee. So that's a total budget of $6.2 million, a $230,000 or 3% increase over the current year. Benefits enhancements. This was a focus of HR over the past year. So we focused on pay the prior year. This year's been benefits. Next year we're going to look at our performance evaluation program and the merit pay program. You did receive a presentation from the HR director within the last month or two, which did give you a preview of many of the enhancements that we had brainstormed and were considering including in the budget. We did not include all of those, but we were able to include many of those that had were on the lower end of the budgetary impact. So you do see those detailed on this slide, and they are included in the manager's recommended budget. So just briefly, we're adding 0.4 hours to the accrual rates for public safety employees. This is to recognize that they do actually work more hours each year than our regular employees. Adding a longevity tier for 1 year but less than 5 years to use that as a retention tool as well as recruitment. Increase the HSA contribution by $100 annually for employees on the high deductible health plan. Increase tuition reimbursement. Add 1 mental health day as a floating day for employees. Add paid family and medical leave. Enhance some of the benefits available to part-time employees. Health insurance tier for child-only coverage. Add a college savings program so that employees will be able to contribute to a college savings account through payroll deduction. adding paid bereavement leave, 3 days per occurrence, and then adjust annual leave accruals. You will see some more detail about all of this in a presentation that Sonia will make following my budget presentation. She will go into more detail about what's included in the recommended budget, and if all of those items are approved, then when you approve the budget June 17th, we'll also present the personnel policy amendments that would incorporate those changes. So we welcome your feedback on those. Volunteer fire departments, the fire tax rate remains the same at 5 cents. The budget does increase by $42,000. This is just due to growth in the tax base that we cited earlier. Additional property values that are taxed. 2% increase for Roxborough Fire. This is based on their contract, which provides a 2% increase every other year. Bonuses were awarded in the current fiscal year to Cepho, Mariah, and Triple Springs for lowering their ISO ratings. So those are included in next year's budget as well. We are implementing new software for the volunteer fire departments because their software was bought out and is no longer supported. And also the equipment lease that I mentioned earlier will also provide updated AEDs for the volunteers, as well as some other medical equipment that first responders will be able to utilize on scene. We will have an unallocated line item of $86,000, which could be used for bonuses or other needs in fiscal year 25. And it continues the part-time staffing at the same budget that we've had for the last 2 years of $790,000. Nonprofit funding request, we do have 2 for fiscal year 25. One is from the Person County Museum of History. They are funded through the general fund. We do have a budget for the museum. The county maintains the museum property, and we have done so for years because it is a county property. 2 years ago, the museum came and did request funding from the commissioners to help with the campus revitalization so that they could become self-sustaining moving forward. So in the interest of creating an environment where they could do additional fundraising and have the staff to support those efforts. So in fiscal year 23, you did allocate $20,000 to the museum. The current fiscal year, there was a $40,000 additional allocation made to help them move towards that goal of self-sustainability. They did request another $40,000 for fiscal year 25. So given the fact that we're trimming back in many other areas and that the initial intent was to help the museum move towards that goal of being able to do the fundraising and improvements on their own, the recommended budget includes $20,000 in funding for fiscal year 25. You've also received a request from the Person County Business and Industrial Center, or PCBIC. You have given them $10,000 in this current fiscal year, and the request for next year is $62,800. So the recommended budget does include $20,000 in the Economic Catalyst Fund to go towards this economic development nonprofit. And as we had discussed previously, both of these requests may be good items for a work session and for a more thorough discussion about what is the board's desire as far as supporting these 2 nonprofits and what are the expectations for the funding. So for PCBIC, I've included a $20,000 placeholder for further discussion by the board. Then we have the Person County Schools. So as I mentioned, their request for current expenses is fully funded in the budget. They made a capital request of $912,000, which is a $357,000 increase. I've recommended $556,000, which is just $268 more than they received this year. CIP funds the new roof for the elementary school and replacing the water fountains at all schools. And then debt service is estimated at $1.7 million, and a small amount of that, $12,000, is for the new roof on South Elementary. So total funding for the schools, taking in current expense, capital, tech capital, CIP, debt service, is $17.7 million. Then moving on to Piedmont Community College, their current expense request was $1.8 million. That's a 25% increase. The recommendation is for $1.7 million, or a 20% increase, and continue the $10,000 for the small business incubator. Capital request was for $163,000 or $93,000 increase. The budget recommends $85,000, which is a $15,000 increase, and does include funding to purchase the Carolina Pride Car Wash building and various exterior and IT systems improvements on the community college campus. And please note, Piedmont Community College will be contributing $1.8 million in revenue towards the purchase of the building for chat. Debt service is estimated at $135,000, and that's the new debt for the acquisition of the Carolina Pride Car Wash building. So that is supported within the debt model, as we've discussed previously. So the total for Piedmont Community College in this year's budget is just over $9.1 million. So we are reaching the end of my presentation. The next steps in the budget process are to have a budget public hearing on June 3rd, and that is at your 6 p.m. regular meeting. So that will include the budget public hearing where members of the public are encouraged to come and speak on the budget. Budget work sessions, I'm proposing the dates of June 5th at 9 a.m. and then June 10th at 9 a.m. if needed. So typically, we set those dates during this meeting, and then we put those out in the form of a special meeting notice for the budget work sessions on the dates that the board settles on. So I've heard in terms of availability from a few board members, but just need to check in with everybody again on your availability for June 5th and June 10th at 9 a.m. We can come back to that slide. So the budget after this meeting will be available electronically on the county website, personcountync.gov. You can navigate to finance and budget documents to view it. And then there will also be hard copies available in the clerk's office and at the library. And anyone with questions is encouraged to call the county manager's office, 336-597-1720. We'll be glad to answer any questions about the budget. And so now I'll be glad to answer any questions that y'all have. And as I said, Amy and Tracy are here as well.
Catherine, I know we've already, we all sat down and talked with you previous to this, and so I think as county commissioners, we have our work cut out for us. As you discussed, I'm not in favor of a tax increase, so we need to sit down and we need to go over this as we have our budget sessions and decide if there's anything we can do to adjust that in any way. And that's just my thoughts on that. I appreciate the work you put into this, presenting and putting this packet together for us, and look forward to our sessions coming up.
And lots of work, lots of effort, going back even to department heads who have answered the call. They have done their work. That's what they should do, is make recommendations based on information they receive as far as needs are concerned. So there is quite a bit of difference there in, I think, what we would desire as far as tax increase with our taxpayers, and we need to be fully aware of that. There's a lot of information there on your slides that were not included in the packet.
Right, so we
And
had the
so-
agenda abstract in the packet, and then the slides are the introduction of the budget to you all and to the public.
So everything that you showed us today is in that.
It's in the budget document.
Okay.
Yes,
All right, I wanna make
which
sure.
is
'Cause
what
that
you
breaks
have
it
and will be
down in a
online.
much more readable and understandable way. So that would certainly be part of what we need to look at as we ponder this, and it's quite a bit of difference, as I said, as to what we might look for as far as revenue neutral, but there are lots of points there to consider with inflation. Certainly, public safety is important. Education is extremely important. Economic development. I don't, all three that I just mentioned, there's not a single one at this table that did not have those on their list of things to accomplish as a board by board members, and so those entities are important to us going forward, and we certainly want to look at ways to maintain that, yet consider very strongly no tax increase. So that's what citizens, I think, they're typically looking for and concerned about. But, okay, you need some comments related to your June 5th request.
Yes, so I do want to confirm whether everyone's okay with the June 5th date and the June 10th date if needed for work sessions at 9 a.m.
You've already got my response.
Thank you.
I'm good with those dates.
Okay. Sounds like everybody is then. Great.
Okay.
And so I would plan on having both the museum and PCBIC attend the June 5th meeting to talk about the nonprofit funding. Is that good with everybody? And then we'll see what other questions the board has between now and then. Please let me know. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions, anything that you would like for us to be prepared to discuss with you at that work session.
Okay.
We will include the slides in the minutes, and I can email those to you separately so that you can have those for reference sooner
Sure.
than when the minutes are available.
I think that would be good.
And I did not emphasize enough earlier, I think I kind of mentioned it offhand. We started out with a very large gap between the requests and available revenues for next year. So we really emphasize to departments to please go back, look very closely at their request, stick to the essentials for next year to continue what we're currently doing, to take care of our employees. That would be our focus this year, and to be able to support the school system as they're going through a time where they are losing revenues that they've had, and to identify cuts from their request that may have been, enhancements in the coming year, or something that may have been an equipment purchase that was not absolutely necessary. In some cases where it was necessary, we were able to identify some funding in this year's budget, so we could go ahead and move forward with that and not include it for next year. But our departments really took a hard look at what their requests were and contributed greatly to closing that gap between the request and what ultimately has been recommended. And I felt like I needed to construct the budget with that 3-cent tax increase, knowing that there would be some, some pushback about that, some concerns about having a tax increase. But due to just the inflation and the overall experience that we're all having of increasing cost, I felt that it was prudent to recommend an approach to creating some additional revenues. One thing that I think I omitted in my slides that I had intended to include was to show, and I've included it in my budget message, but the impact that 3 cents would have on the median home value, homeowner's value within Person County. That's at $178,000. So the impact on the annual tax bill would be about $53 for that 3-cent tax increase. So that is included in the budget document, but that just helps you see the context of what that increase does mean as it is impacting the tax bill. So now it is your turn. It's your turn to take the recommended budget and turn it into your budget. So we've got work to do together over the next 4 weeks. Again, the public hearing's on June 3rd with the approval of the budget scheduled for June 17th. So public hearing June 3rd, budget work session June 5th. And again, please get in touch with me with any questions or feedback that you have about the budget as we continue to work through this. But I'm looking forward to that process. So thank you all for your involvement and engagement in that.
Isn't that all?
That's all. I'm done.
And I see the tax man smiling. And Amy. Any other comments, questions, board members? Everybody happy? Okay, There's no action required here. This is all the information and homework. So we move along. As far as chairman report, they were just.
We did have the employee benefits.
Yeah, one more.
Sonia's gonna
Before we
do
go.
a
Oh, yeah, I'm
presentation.
sorry. I really do want to get out of here early. Okay. Item number 5, employee benefits update. Ms. Carver, didn't mean to ignore you.
That's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
Good morning. So Catherine has already talked to you a lot about the details about our benefit enhancement. I did want to start by talking about our cost of living increase for our employees. I kind of wanted to give it a human spin. We've talked about the numbers, the impact of the cost. But to remain competitive in the job market and recognize inflation without losing momentum initiated by the pay study, the cost of living increase is imperative for several reasons. And the most important reason is for our employees. The employees who serve frontline, the employees who support these teams and enable them to efficiently fulfill their job duties, the employees that successfully keep Person County government moving forward, the employees that provide support to the citizens when they're having one of their worst days. Our employees deserve a cost of living increase to adjust, helping offset increasing expenses for groceries, housing, everyday living, which impacts not only them, but everyone in this room. And retention. Most of our staff are present due to their steadfast dedication and loyalty to our county. They possess valuable expertise and a crucial part to our success and the future prosperity of Person County. We aim to ensure our seasoned team remains actively involved, enabling them to concentrate on fostering growth and facilitating change within Person County rather than consistently hiring and retraining new employees. And lastly is recruitment. The recruitment process has greatly improved since our pay study. Most applicant pools have increased in numbers and quality of applicants. We do still have a few areas of concerns, but those issues are shared across the state. A large number of counties in North Carolina and even private sectors are proposing a cost of living increase. So let's ensure that Person County government remains a progressive employer, avoiding being left behind in the competitive labor market. So now I want to talk to you about benefits, which is a happy place. I love benefits. So if you could start the slide, please. So earlier, if you remember, I came to you based on an employee survey that we conducted. We wanted to hear the voice of our employees to see what they were recommending we could improve on. While we could not incorporate all of the benefits that were recommended, I think our team, including the budget team and then our employee human resources team, we had some great options on the table that we could touch all levels of employees. And it all boiled down to affordability for the county, and we knew that that was going to be a huge impact to whether or not we could have these changes. And I'm just going to briefly go through this. Manager Kathy has discussed a lot of this, but we have narrowed down some of the benefits that we would like to propose. We got a little creative. We're proposing some benefits that does not have a monetary impact and did initiate some that do have a small impact. We will be back in June if these benefits are incorporated in the budget with some policy changes. Okay, so paid time off, which we all know as we are employees, is huge to our workforce. We are proposing county paid bereavement days of 3 days. Mental health day, which is a floating day, can be used anytime during the fiscal year. Paid family medical leave. You would have to be certified under family medical leave in order to get your first 2 weeks of paid time. We are proposing administrative leave for our routinely scheduled part-time employees. These are not our temporary employees. These are part-time employees that have a routine schedule every week. And what administrative leave means, if the county has to shut down a department or the entire county that day, and this person as a part-time status does not have time to make up their time during the week, the county will pay them for their regular hours worked that day. We are adjusting our annual accrual leave, and I won't go through each of these, but you can see that we're focused on looking at retention early in the game. You know, retention used to be employees would stay with you 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The job market now is if we can get them for 5 years is what we would like to see. So we're trying to incorporate giving a little bit more of benefits early on in their employment, but also on the back end, reward our employees that have been with us for 20 years or more. These benefits you see here do not have a budgetary impact, which is awesome. So for public service, which is Sheriff's Office, EMS, and Communications, we went back and did an average of their hours they work, because they do work more than this 1950, a 40-hour work week scenario. The average ended up being 8.4 hours, so we're looking at adjusting their leave rates for annual, sick, and holiday. This did come with a budget impact of approximately $12,000. Our health insurance, we have increased the health savings contribution from the county from $900 to $1,000. That impact is $17,000 approximately. We also created a one-child tier premium rate. So instead of you only having one child and having to go into the group that may have 2 or more children, you're paying a lower rate for just that one child. And that is no increase because the employee carries the full premium for that. Our medical weight management program, which has had a huge success and a huge buy-in from our employees, we have decided to decrease the BMI from 40 to 35. And we were fortunate enough to have Cigna fund this for us through what they call a tech funding. So that is not a budgetary impact for us. Routinely scheduled part-time employees will now be able to join our county gym with no budgetary impact. And there again, the focus with these last 3 on here are for our wellness of our employees. For education and certification, we're looking at increasing the tuition reimbursement from $800 to $2,500 per fiscal year. Based on the request we got for this upcoming year, it's going to be about a $6,800 increase. For adjustment of certification increases, and this is only for educational purposes, it's not for certifications. So if they receive an associate's degree, bachelor's, master's, the increase will be going from 1.5% of their salary to 2.5%. And that increase is roughly about only $281 this fiscal year. College savings plan, we're looking at doing this for our upcoming fiscal year, where employees can contribute into a savings plan to help get their children through college. Longevity, which is a huge favorite benefit for our employees. We wanted to add a tier for 1 year but less than 5. And the reason for this there again is for retention for our new employees to stay with us longer than 1 or 2, 3, 4 years. And then we're going to include our routinely scheduled part-time employees in this as well. So that's kind of a highlight. Is there any questions I can answer for you?
Questions?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say that I know, working with the company, employee benefits are very important for retaining and for recruiting. And so I do think that we have to look at enhancing those benefits as we go forward because they are important to people. And it's not just your salary. You know, this is your salary in a way. Your benefits, you add up what the benefits per person cost and put that with the salary. That's your salary there. So I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate what you put together. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. And again, that was receiving the information here for future consideration. So there's no action to be taken by the board on that matter. We're all clear now, Madam Clerk? Keep me in order. As far as the chairman's report, there I'll just mention a couple of things. I did attend the PCC graduation Friday, and also there's been quite a bit of consideration or talks going on around the airport with some pending actions maybe to be taken in the future, some of which already has been mentioned about the runway rehab, but that's things to come in the future with the airport there. I think they're very good. I did attend the 25th anniversary of the Canterbury House Friday, which was a good event, and those are just a few highlights from the past couple of weeks. Manager Kathy?
I don't have anything else at this time.
Okay. Managers, okay, and Commissioner Sims?
Thank you. I have a few things. First of all, a couple of the items that were mentioned today. I'd like for our Assistant County Manager, if you would, to review the DSS complaint and get back with us and let us know the situation on that. So again, appreciate if you would do that for us, Brian. I also think the other one with Dominion Energy, I think we should discuss with Dominion Energy their stormwater and see what's happening with that project. Again, we've had a lot of rain. There's some places had 5 inches of rain last week or something like that, so it's hard to control. But certainly I want to look at that, and I certainly want to make sure that they are meeting the regulations and ordinances that we have and with the state and with us as we go forward. The other thing that was mentioned today, I just wanted to say this publicly, I am not part of any cover-up whatsoever. Those accusations are thrown at every meeting, it seems like, but I want to make that perfectly known that I am not part of any cover-up. The other thing is that I'm the only one up here that's running for office. And so I think that we need to review our public comments. They should be, we have rules that are in place. They're not supposed to be personal. And if we have rules, then we need to follow them and we need to enforce them. So I'm just going to say, Mr. Chairman, I respect you, I respect your position, but if we have someone that's going to get up and personally attack me personally, I will speak up. And I think that, as I said, we need to follow the rules. 2 minutes is 2 minutes, and I've seen people were stretching it out. So I think give people 2 minutes and that's it. On another note, I attended the Person High ROTC Awards program Saturday morning. It was good to see the number of cadets that were out there that will be going into our military branches. I want to say that, and when my count, I counted about 20, maybe a little bit more than that. But it was an honor to be out there, and I presented an award for the outstanding ROTC cadet at that meeting. So, thanks everyone for their comments, and that's all I have.
Commissioner Palmer?
I'm gonna bounce off you for a second here. Over the last several weeks, I've had numerous county citizens come to me with complaints on DSS. I provided Manager Kathy with 2 booklets. One of them is about this deep. One of them is on one particular family. One part of that book is on one particular family, the rest of it is just various complaints. It's been going on for a long time. We've been talking about this for a long time. But not just one complaint. There's at least 15 or 20. And it's just repetitive. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And I hope that we can resolve these problems that we have within that department soon. That's all I have.
Commissioner Perrier?
No report.
Commissioner Thomas?
No report.
Commissioner Sims, I will say to you that during that public outburst there, I was making a note, and you did not have me time to call that gentleman to order. And with all due respect there, sir, I try to maintain the requirements for time limitations. That is at my discretion, and I do respect that. At the same time, some run less than whatever the time allowed is. Some go beyond, but we try to monitor that according to the importance of what is being said. And you mentioned DSS there, and one of those examples was that what happened here this morning. So that's my response to your comments to me. Okay, if no other comments from commissioners, need a motion to go into closed sessions, and there are numerous ones, so this motion is for all the closed sessions. And the closed sessions will include County Manager Kathy, Clerk Solomon, County Attorney Herman, and one is to discuss a personnel matter, followed by a closed session to preserve the attorney-client privilege with Brandon Lynch allowed to attend, followed by closed session number 3 for negotiating the price and other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property with Brandon Lynch allowed to attend. We have a motion to go into closed sessions.
Chairman Powell, I'd like to make a motion, we go into all 3 closed sessions.
Have a motion, any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carried, unanimous, thank you. So we need just a few minutes to, let IT get situated.
I'd like to make a motion that we make an extension for the amount of 90 days.
Let's just say September 4th. Extend to September 4th.
Extend
It's
to
less than
September
90
4th.
days.
Through September the 4th.
Take out the number. Okay. Motion on the floor for the extension to extend till September 4th, 2024.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion to adjourn. Discussion. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you.